So, as you can see what I've got in here, I'm looking over my Mina 1 build that got me top 16 in the current in the recent European RLA. If anyone in chat has any questions, please do feel free to ask. So this deck came about because when the Provisional Star Championship promos were released, we got All Might 7. All Might 7 is more colloquially known as Ball Might, Sword Might, and I have a Ball Might and I thought, well, it would be a waste not to use it. So I built a deck. And the deck wasn't great. The main idea behind it was to get 6 damage on cards and draw using Award the Victor to essentially loop your attacks. I was discussing it with people and people pointed out that Mina 1 does the exact same thing. And it was like, I hadn't even thought about it. If I had thought about that, I'd been using it a lot sooner than set 3. But things like Decoy Duplicate have helped out quite a lot. So, the biggest thing with this deck is how explosive it can be. During testing, I was able to one-shot pretty much any single character. There are some very tough matchups into people like Fourth Kind, which turned out to be one of my more easier games. Not to say my opponent was easy to play against, they just had some really bad luck. I was able to pop this off. But the general idea when making the deck was to pressure my opponent into no-win situations and also have answers for everything they were looking to do, which is why it feels very defensive. We got ice. We got giant. Looking at the offensive package, Giant Ice Wall, a stun 2 that can potentially give my next attack stun 2 is very strong in the one with Nature Matter, and it's a high block with Breaker 1, going into the supposed Tokiyami Jiro meta. Having that high block breaker seems very powerful because Zero Gravity Lift, Dark Shadow Ruin, Home and Comet, Specialized Sound Waves, these are all cards that are high, and having that extra breaker block can make my opponent rethink their turn. Ice Storm is just an all-round value card. Most of the decks I run these symbols will either have Ice Storm or possibly Sheffield Swiss, because Breaker 2 can just end turns. And when your opponent goes, oh, it now costs me 2 more to play my next attack, they may just start building or might have to buy it. In my round 7 game, I was against Sato 1, and every time they attacked me over mid, I Ice Stormed it, and they checked to 3 off the top, and it was like, oh, I guess I gotta commit 5 foundations if I want to pass this check, or 6 foundations if I want to pass this check. And then I was just able to go, Indiscriminate Shock for game. So, Indiscriminate Shock is in here because it just kills. With the Award the Victor combination with Woman Nature, and with the extra speed from Mina, 1.3 million just absolutely wrecks. It was pretty much my kill attack the majority of the time. And I wish I hadn't decided it out as much as I had, but I started to get paranoid that my opponents were prepared for it. Ice Light Tackle was my MVP. If people saw the game I was on stream, I got 2 of them. I was up against Jiro, the Jiro that won the entire event, and I was able to completely shut down Electric Jolt and Zero Gravity Lift with Ice Light Tackle, because Ice Light Tackle, when paired with Infinite Potential, turns any attack into this attack does no damage. So you're worried about Muscle Rush, you're worried about Jolt, you're worried about Throws. If you can get your Infinite Potential down and you've got an Ice Light Tackle in hand, you are golden. And I'm running a 1 of Frigid Heatwave. When I was talking to people in the group chats, in the Discords, people were saying my attack package is all low. And if someone caught on to that during game 1, before I had a chance to decide, I may not be able to kill them because they just keep holding all the lows. But if I could attack with all those, have them start holding all those, and then throw down a frigid heatwave, then my rivals were more likely going to be like, oh, that frigid heatwave came out of nowhere, and frigid heatwave has the potential of getting to 10 damage before adding things like Woman Nature on top. So can't complain about that. Frigid did me a lot of work. Drawing into extra cards for Woman Nature is always solid, which is why I put 2 more into the sideboard as well. It's absolutely solid card. Some people did suggest increasing my deck size and adding more, but I thought running a tight 51 cards, given how quickly I go through my cards, was a solid decision. For those that aren't aware, Mina Ashito's abilities: she's a 7-hander for 20 health, so basic stats there. Once per turn, your turn, discard 1 card. After you check a card, you may play that card as your next form this turn. No check necessary. Now that's the key. That no check necessary is an absolute monster. When part of the reason I wanted to play Mina is I saw some people playing Kurogiri too, and loving how you had the ability to just cheat out attacks, but Mina does it so much better. You with Award Victory, you can stack the top of your deck. If you go into life, there's even easier ways to stack the top of your deck. But the main thing you're looking to do here is just going second. If you want to, the amount of times I went on a 2, on a 2, on a 3, on a 3, on a 3, on a 3, checking a 1 with nature, checking a World of Victor, just going, yeah, I'll discard this 2 check, this 2 cost I can't play right now, and I'll slam in this card that's going to be paying for you. The pure random nature of Mina is what I absolutely loved about the character, and it makes me glad that I had her as the main character. I did get some flack from some of the other EU players for essentially wimping out and not playing Ballmite after picking him up, but I did side into Ballmite quite often. And second ability is Enhance. This attack gets +1 speed. If it deals damage, gain 1 health. That 1 health is not negligible. If I was more focused on the Enhance rather than the response, you're on jolt symbols, you're on the Shoto 2 attack that guarantees 1 damage on water. There are ways to manipulate the the health side of it, but for me it's all about the response. The +1 speed just makes it better, but if I needed speed, that's when I would usually change to Ballmite. Looking at the foundations of the list, Woman Nature, 4 Woman Natures. I only run 2 4 foundations, and that's Woman Nature and a Ward of Victor, because those are my kill conditions. The amount of times I never saw Woman Nature was absolutely shocking. I think I only had 2 Woman Natures down once the entire time. But once Woman Nature came down, the games just got a lot easier. If I didn't have Woman Nature down, games were a lot harder and a lot more back and forth. But if I had Woman Nature down, the amount of stunning, the amount of oppressive nature of this deck made it so much easier just to keep pushing. Moving into basic training. Basic training, just a solid foundation. It's deadlock threat. This deck, not a lot of deadlock threats, but basic training being one of the more stand-up ones. Your rival goes, oh, you 1 basic training's fine. I had literally one opponent go, if you had 1 basic training, I'd be fine going into deadlock, but you've got 2 out, and I can't risk all your attacks having +2 speed and then +1 for Mina. Basic training is an absolute star in this deck, and when I side into the Dark Shadow Ruins, that extra damage can become times up, but there were times where I didn't see basic training or Woman Nature, and my Dark Shadow Ruins were just dead cards, unfortunately, which is something I'll probably work on in the future, possibly looking for different attacks to replace Dark Shadow Ruins aside. Is Excited is just in there to fill a nice high block zone, as well as act as more chump change. I mean, I probably don't need as many zeros as I'm running in this deck, but I do want to be a sort of hyper aggro, so the more foundations I can build. If I can build out to 7 going second, I will. And I'll go, if you can kill me now, you can kill me, but I am more likely going to sit here and just take whatever I can. But +1 speed on response, really good, and it makes my first attacks a lot harder to deal with. Chivalrous Competitor, I was completely shocked I was not running this as a 4-of. I was certain I was running Chivalrous Competitor as a 4-of. I sit down on the Saturday, I go through my deck list, I double check it all to make sure it's right. You know, just in case I get a deck check, I go, oh, I thought I was running 4, and I look at UVS, I look at my deck, I go, nope, I'm running 3. That feels like a mistake, but I can't change it now. Graceful Maneuvers is... I don't get why more people aren't running this card. I really don't. Graceful Maneuvers is one of these cards I will defend in any matchup. Yes, it's a free mid block. Yes, it's a 2 cost, but it just punishes strings so well. The 2 most targeted defensive cards for committal by Jolt, by Engine Trouble, was Release and Graceful Maneuvers. Because with requesting assistance, it becomes, okay, I'll block with Ice Storm, your next one costs you more. And then I go, cool, -3 speed, flip requesting, ready Graceful Maneuvers. So I can now block this one, and your next one's going to get even slower. I went up against the Selkie, who was using Recipio Burst, and Graceful Maneuvers almost kept me alive. I was 2 points short, but the amount of speed Graceful Maneuvers reduces is absolutely insane. It's something I've been preaching since set 2. It's possibly one of my favourite cards from set 2. Mina, the Mina character from set 2, not great, but I absolutely love some of her foundations. Graceful Maneuvers, going paired with Cheerful Uppercut, got me out through Nationals, it got me through the HLC, it got me through a lot of tough matchups. It makes my matchup with quite a few characters a lot better, because if they like to string out, I can slow them right down. I've had it in my deck since the start just to go against Momo, because Momo likes to fill up their card pool, and Graceful Maneuver punishes them for that. It's just a simple commit. This attack gets -2, and then gets an additional -1 speed for each card in your card pool. So it goes 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's absolutely nuts. I love it. Struggling with Studies is down here with Chivalrous Competitor, mainly for the response. The enhanced flip didn't actually pop up that much. Not too many people were launching 3 attacks because of the breakers. But what I was more worried about was seizing and apathetic, and more things trying to get rid of my 1-win nature or my 1 the victor. So the amount of I think it happened on stream. Season came down, they targeted 1-win nature, they targeted Release, and I just flipped to Chivalrous or a Struggling with Studies. No, that ain't happening. I will happily sacrifice a little bit of defense to keep my biggest boards up. But Struggling with Studies, an all-out just good card to have again. It's a free low block, so you're not looking to block with it as much as you like. The low blocks in this deck aren't great, but with speed reduction and check hacking with Release, it's not that bad. One of the things that people will see in here that that were in my other decks, I'm not running Nothing to See here anymore, and I'm not running Cool Student anymore because of the All Might 4 list. So luckily I didn't run into it, but I respected that list enough to go, I cannot rely on momentum out to get me defensive. I cannot go Cool Student or Nothing to See here will save me, because if I run into the All Might deck, they are now just dead cards. And it might have just been my head like going a little bit more meta-gamey, but I did not want to be in a situation where I was taking the only momentum I really got is the decoy duplicate, but I was prepared. So I prepared this deck around Tokiyami, Jiro, and All Might 4. And I did run into a Jiro. Other than that, it was very good. But I'll go into the Sheffield matchups after I go first. Requesting assistance, I got my XRs. They arrived just in time. But requesting assistance, just one of the best zero cost foundations. You get momentum and you can ready up. It is pretty much the closest thing we have to stun hate in Chaos. You have got first aid class, but requesting assistance is targeted ready, which is just great. Award Victor is what makes this deck a threat. I had no opponent. Once Award Victor hit the board, every single opponent I sat across from over the weekend went, "That is an issue. That is something. If I cannot block the attacks, that is going to be an issue." It's also part of why I went with Mina over Ball Might. Award Victor flip after your attack deals damage. Add it to the top of your deck, your next check gets +2. Now with Ball Might, I am required to do 6 damage before I get that flip. Now with Mina, I just need damage. So there have been times where I've seen my opponents got like Heroic Lineage and stuff like that down. Or they've seen, I'll play a 1.3 million volts. And I'll go, cool. Stun, commit, and then I'll just go send it. 4 low for 5. And my rival will go, okay, why? Well, because I want this one to go through. Because I've got more gas in my hand, but I've also got Award Victor. Just because you can spend your block here and pay more taxes, but I'm not going to give you an easy block. Release, absolutely solid defensive card. I really wish I could get a hold of some extra credit ones before the event, but they're also ridiculously hard to get a hold of over here and very expensive. One of my only ways to play Mondelic as well, just block foundation +2 to check to block. Nice and easy. Infinite Potential. This is a card that I run quite a lot, that a lot of people don't seem to run. And I can get why they don't. But Infinite Potential to me seems like just a solid card. It's a 1 cost, 5 check. Flip, you change the attack zone to high. Perfect. And it's a 1 high block in itself. That 1 high block is not negligible in part of its own ability. But the ability to make something else high can save you. If your opponent plays a low and you've only got mids and highs, you go, cool. It makes something a lot easier to deal with. It allows you to deal with cards that... it allows you to deal with throws. It allows you to deal with a lot of stuff. That's a lot harder to deal with. And with the Isolate Tackle, it can mean that you take no damage as well. Isolate Tackle came in very important against Hardened Frenzy, against Zero Gravity Lift, and on stream, and against Liam Chana in the top 16. I was able to Infinite Potential Jolt to make sure I took no damage, which was great because every time I flip Infinite Potential, I got the exact same response from all my opponents of, I know what's coming next. It's like, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't. Only running the 1 of Decoy Duplicate, because for me this is a break glass in case of emergency sort of card. I don't want to be reliant on it. I don't want to be thinking too defensively and looking at what I've got. This is if I can't handle this attack, it needs to go. But I didn't want to put too many in there because I'd be relying on the momentum, which is something I was trying to avoid with the All Might decks. And it's because by the time Decoy's online, I'd hopefully be in a position of already winning. MVP of the Foundations was Petty Squabble. In my stream game against Grant, he used latent skills. And then I just went respond, discard a card, commit your overlating skills, forcing him to use his requesting assistance early to ready up the latent skills, digging for more attacks, rather than later on in the game when he could ready up for extra resources to pass more checks. It the response on Petty Squabble is so often forgotten that when I did it, people were like, how are you doing this? And I was like, response on the Petty Squabble. It's a case of, you have to, when it comes to playing Petty Squabble, you have to just trust in the draw. I will happily go down to one or two cards. My opponent plays an attack, I go, cool, this is my block card, and then this is my response card to try and get out of your hand. You block, you commit your Mina, because Mina has no defensive capability, which is why she's great for Petty Squabble, and you draw two, hoping to draw the right block zones. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for me in a couple of games, such as against Grant and against Liam, but most of the time I draw a mid, or I would rip the exact block zone I need right off the top. It was kind of like my anime moment, but absolutely loved. Hey Vixen. Moving on to sideboard, Frigid Heatwave, 2 off, put it in there, it's a high attack and draw power, extra damage, absolutely love it. Dark Shadow Ruin is something I need to do some experiment with, but it's a ranged attack, so it still feeds into Frigid Heatwave, and it kind of replaces Indiscriminate as my kill card, because this is a 4/5. It comes in, I use Woman Nature, it's a 4/6. I use Mina, it's a 5/6. Perfect. It's now a 5/9. It's not the one turn kill like Indiscriminate Shot can get, but it's kind of the average number that Indiscriminate gets turn 2, turn 3. So and it's much faster, having a 5/9 that I can then go, cool, bounce it back on top of my deck and play it again, is very strong. It's also a 1 mid breaker block, so if I was playing against opponents who weren't playing too many lows, such as Jiro, once I established they weren't a Indiscriminate Shock Jiro, I could side out my Indiscriminate Shocks, I could side out my low blocks, and I could side in more highs and mids, and become a lot more defensible and with more breakers. Second copy of Decoy Duplicate, just for fourth kind. That's all it was for. I had some practice games against fourth kind, and fourth kind just wrecked me. So the next 3 cards are specifically to deal with characters like fourth kind that are just a bit more overwhelming. Decoy Duplicate, Confused. Confused was to deal with stun. It was again an All Might 4 sideboard card. If they played Detroit Smash, I went to make sure that their first if they've only got 1 momentum, they have to go, okay, this attack's only going to be 6 speed, because if they've got another Detroit Smash in the discard, I'm going to flip it and you're going to lose that keyword. Now, yeah, I get All Might 4 only runs 8 attacks, but hopefully one of them will be in there, so I can get rid of EX. I can wait for them to go, okay, I'll give this powerful 6. You go, cool. Confused, remove powerful. Now you cannot increase its damage to kill point. Confused is a very powerful card, and if I'd have come across a Throwmite or a Throger, then it would have also gone in there because it helps me deal with throw. Hold Hostage again helps with 5-handers. I did bring it in against the 4th kind I faced. I believe I also brought it in against Selkie, but it was mainly in there for characters like Nomu, for Ochako. So if Ochako led off with a Turn to Dust, I could go, okay, cool, hold hostage, let's get that Hulking Grimace out your hand, and then let's block this Turn to Dust so you can't be using Ochako's abilities. Only 1, because I only had 1 at the time of building the deck. I managed to pick up a second, I believe, on the Friday, but I'd already submitted my deck list, so I was like, oh. And of course, final character is Ballmite. Ballmite, inspiration for the deck, would not have got to where I was if it wasn't for Ballmite. In the sideboard, mainly to deal with Jiro. Unfortunately, Didn't quite work out. I did change into Jiro against Grant. I did end up winning game 2 off the back of Jiro. No, off the back of Bormite. But unfortunately, I never got to use the response. But that third block response against Jiro can do some serious work. First enhance, your ranged or weapon attack gets +2. Now this is where a lot of people have kind of fallen away. They keep going for the weapon builds. There was another All Might 7 there on All who had gone weapon. I'm like, that's cool, but it's nowhere near as powerful as ranged. And the main reason people don't want to go ranged is because of the fact you need to deal 6 damage. There is not a lot of ranged cards that have 6 damage on their face. You need a combination. So yeah, response, if your attack deals 6 or more damage, draw 2 cards. Once per turn, but not a commit cost. Absolutely love that. And then a third response, after you block an attack for the 3rd time this turn, commit your rival's character. So if against basically it made Nomu a 2 attack only. It was designed to also work against Jiro, because if I can block 3 things, I can then go cool, commit your character, and they go, oh, no more damage for me. But unfortunately, most of the time I just wasn't drawing enough high blocks to deal with the Jiros, and the other times it didn't really matter that much. But it had some real potential. Going into Sheffield RLE, this time last week I was in kind of like a proper panic mode. I'd been playing against 4th Kind a few days before. I'd been completely destroyed, and I was honestly having a bit of an anxiety attack. I was in like the throes of a depressive fit as well. Mina had been performing really well at provisionals. She'd been performing really well in my matches against Crossfade. From every aspect I could see, she was the optimal choice to take to the RLE. But then I played against 4th Kind, and then I saw the Sheffield Provisional, which had a lot of 4th Kind, and I was like, I could be in some serious trouble. If I get paired into these guys early, I could be in some serious trouble. And I just had to keep reminding myself, I had my Nationals invite. I was playing purely for fun and to meet up with people. I had to just keep having those words of self-affirmation, just reminding myself, I don't need to top an event for that event to have been worthwhile me going. And I think that's something a lot of people need to kind of get into the use of tell themselves, because I heard a lot of people saying it during the weekend. It was a case of, I've travelled so far, it would be a shame not to top. And it was a case of, I understood that. I drove 5 hours in the blazing heat. Well, I say blazing heat, in the UK heat, to get to Sheffield, and part of me would have been really sad if I got in, if I would have was like 100 and what at first. But at the same time, after sitting there on the Friday, after getting to chat with my friends, after getting to meet people I hadn't seen in at least a year, it felt a lot better. But I just have to keep reminding myself, I do not need to top an event for that event to me keep going. It is perfectly fine for me to go for the social aspect and to meet my friends and just have fun. And that is something I will be adding to my list of tips for new players. You do not need to win an event, you just need to have fun during that event. But going into the event, I first get paired up against Brandon, who is not happy to be paired up against me. In a jokey way, he was more than happy to like play me, but I think he just didn't want to be playing up against heavy hitters, or who he considered heavy hitters, which it was pretty much my entire weekend in all honesty. Nothing but heavy hitters. Playing a very good Bakugo 1 Def deck, I didn't see any double foot beatdowns, which kind of caught me off guard. But he did respect his checks while going first, so he might have only had one or two that we didn't see. The game against Brandon literally came down to who went first. I won the dice roll, and I was able to kill him quite quickly with Mina. Then game 2, he went first, killed me quite quickly with Bakugo. And then game 3, I went first. I pulled up a little bit, and I pulled ahead a little bit, and I was able to get the kill. What I should have done is probably switched out to Ball Might during game 2 against Bakugo, because once I block that third attack and commit, yeah, he's only got 3 cards left in hand, but he's no longer able to discard those from the card pool. It's not great, and I only have 3 cards in my card pool from blocking, but it's something that hit me afterwards. Is that, yeah, Ball Might's tough. After that, I believe I went on to the stream in round 2. Went up against Grant Prudy, the overall winner. Amazing stream game. I got to do what I wanted to do on stream. I went on the stream with the intent of giving Sam Tate the meme content I promised him of me blocking a jolt with an isolated tackle and me playing indiscriminate shock twice. Which is what I did. But Grant's first move was you like to jolt, me immediately. Infinite potential. Commentators didn't pick up on the infinite potential until Neil realized it was high, and then I played the isolated tackle, and they were like, I think Levi had a little bit of a moment of that. That's the tech. That's how you beat Jolt on Chaos. And then Grant came down with the zero gravity lift immediately after, and I dropped the second isolated tackle, and Grant, you could see Grant was getting a little bit frustrated with that, but poker face from that, drops the third zero gravity lift. I've got no cards in hand, flip Chivalrous, and I get a low block. Oh yeah, I can't touch this now. So I end up taking 9, but I was able to show Chaos has got answers for what J was doing. I switched into Ball Might game 2, take game 2 back just from overwhelming indiscriminate shock power. Game 3, Grant had 1 attack in hand that was a high, and I drew nothing but mid and low blocks. And even if I hadn't, the chances of me being able to block his third attack, because he only had 1 attack in hand, but it was specialized sound waves. So specialized sound waves, into specialized sound waves, into specialized sound waves, and then the third attack would have probably been a high. But then I would have had access to my foundations again. And that was the key to going there. But I had 2 mids and a low, and there was nothing I could do. So if Jessica could print me a chaos card that can let my attacks low, then I got the trifecta. Then I'm ready to go, which might be possible with the new Mirio cards. Going into round 3, I went up against I believe Luke on 4th kind, one of the other top 16 players. So yeah, 3 of the people I faced ended up in top 16. Playing 4th kind, got very unlucky. Didn't see an indiscriminate shock once. I always had the exact right breaker block for whatever he was playing. So I was able to take the 2-0 against Luke. But unfortunately, he couldn't. Yeah, he just couldn't pull anything off there. Moving into round 4, I was up against Steve Claxton and his Toru 2. Now, there was Harvey Woodward, who had been playing Mina 1 as well, and Stephen had already taken on Mina 1 and had forgotten during the first time that Toru 2's ability allows them to respond to the card played from Mina. So, after playing that matchup, he was more prepared for our matchup. Luckily for me, my defensive foundations were so strong in their speed reduction and in their check hacking that his ability to increase my block mod wasn't quite strong enough to counteract my defense, and my offensive power was a little bit stronger than theirs, because of how much they had to overextend to sort of like try and get damage in. So unfortunately for Stephen, I ended up taking that one as well. But Stephen came very close to top cutting himself. His deck is very good. He's been playing it since Nationals, and he keeps updating it. And I do think Toru 2 has got some potential. Just needs that final push. Just needs something that will push her over the edge into the realm of killing people. After that, I went on to round 5, where I came across Liam Chana, the top 8 Shigaraki 3 player, and I get 2-0'd. Basically, by the time I could deal any kind of damage, I'd already checked 15 of my 17 attacks. I'm really glad I got to go back up against him in top 16. But that game was probably the most one-sided game I had all Saturday, because his deck was just running so efficiently and making me check. And then I was just drawing grey, and all my attacks were getting milled away from the foundations and Shigaraki Freeze ability. When I was going to check my foundations, it was more attacks. It was just the worst possible like timeline for that deck. But luckily, it didn't affect my weekend too much. But Liam played that deck beautifully, and Mina is. Shigaraki 3 is such a bad matchup for Mina, especially the way Liam's playing it. Because as I said, I rely on my foundations to fill the shortcomings of my attacks. And Liam's deck is all about cutting off the connection between your foundations and your attacks. So I was playing with a deck that was essentially having its knees cut off because Liam's deck was designed to do it. It was a perfect counter to my deck, and it happens. It exists in this game. It's one of the things in fighting games. You will have characters that counter your thematic play, and most other characters couldn't do it, but Shigaraki 3 did. Then I went up against Selkie. That Selkie was nuts. I almost survived the reciprocal burst, but I had to block. Essentially, I had to block everything. If I don't block, 2 momentum goes in, which makes reciprocal burst hard to deal with. But all of their attacks were designed to do something on block or hit. So we had Rebound Psychic come down, which was a case of I can give him 2 momentum and let it hit me, or I can block it, let him clear progressive and get 1 momentum. But either way, that progressive was getting cleared because of Selkie. Then there was Hardened Frenzy, which is if it's completely blocked, build it down, or if it deals damage, it gets flipped and adds to momentum. So once again, clearing progressive. It was a really solid deck. Reciprocal Extend to replace the card hand to make attacks faster. I ended up losing the first game to the Reciprocal Burst, but the second and third games, my deck just managed to force Selkie to overextend, not get the kills in, and then Indiscriminate Shock just came in for the kill. And my final game, which will hopefully be on Michael Murray's channel, because it was part of the secondary recording stream, was Mina 1 versus Sato 1. There was a couple of Satos. It was a solid deck, and in all honesty, going off the matchup, going off the attacks, he probably should have won that. But as much as my deck said no to me against Liam, his deck did the exact same thing against me. He'd play Back Alley Haymaker, I'd block it, I'd check a 5, commit 2 foundations and go Breaker 2. He'd then go Back Alley again, or he'd go Jab, or he'd play any kind of attack, and he'd immediately check a 3. So that goes down to a 1. And he goes, yeah. So he then has to commit 4 or 5 foundations, and that's basically his case of that's his turn over. There's no way he is continuing a long string of attacks from that point. After that game, the judge comes over and basically says your only losses are to Liam and to Gavin. If you don't make it into top cuts, there's something seriously wrong. So immediately does me a deck check, which was quite funny. And then I moved in top 16. I was up against Liam. Beautiful game, so close. Going second, I was guaranteed to go second, but won the first game going second. switched into ball mat again, lost that one, switched back to Mina going first, and ended up losing that one because I only saw one Woman Nature. If I could get a second Woman Nature, then I'm pretty sure I could have got there. But only having the one Woman Nature and just engine trouble constantly putting it down on my attacks, nothing I could do there. We both played that beautifully. It could have gone either way. We were both in the realms of death, but I got indiscriminate shocked to death, and that's what I've been doing. Can't argue it. Hell of a weekend. All of my opponents respected Mina's abilities, and I can't. I cannot put that against them. So that's story time with Mina. I had a lot of fun playing her. I'm probably going to retire her a little bit because there's no RLEs, there's no big events coming up. So it gives me a chance to put it to one side, try out some more stuff. I've got a start provision on Friday, and I'm probably going to spin the wheel and build something for that. Thanks for joining me, and I will catch you all next time.